Live CDP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 41 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for their newest selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. And also the all-electric Silverado is now available for pre-order as well through Barry Cullen. Check out barrycullen.com again, or give them a call at 519 824-0210. Again, I want to say thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership here in Guelph for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. Guys, just bear with me, and I'm going to bring my guest on in a minute. I'm looking forward to speaking to my guest tonight. His name is Parish. His name is Parish Sharkey. He's a podcast host, producer of Let's Be Real Media, and he's also a staff writer for the Grizzly Bear Blues, and also the Starting Five podcast involving the Memphis Grizzlies. So we're going to talk to Parish about his career, his podcast show, his career, and covering the Titans and the Grizzlies in the Memphis, Tennessee area. Just 1 second, I'm going to bring on Parish. Good evening, Parish. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How about you?
Good. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. This is my 206th episode.
Oh, nice.
Thank you so much. Yeah, like I said, I started this show up in March of 2020 during the pandemic, and it actually got me through the pandemic.
Yep.
So, but I was going to say, how are things going with you in Memphis, and how's the weather in your area right now?
Man, pretty pleasant. It's getting better. I think it's about to be cold in a second, kind of teetering between warm and cold right now, but it's about to be cold I think next week.
Yeah, we're getting fall weather here now with rain and cooler temperatures. We had a hot, humid summer here. I was going to say, nice shirt, tighten up. I was going to say the Titans have a bye week this week. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
I guess your next game is next Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Or no, the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis Colts, 1 o'clock. So have you been to any games yet at Nissan Stadium so far?
Yeah, unfortunately, I went to the first game against the Giants.
What happened in that game? I know the Giants are an improved football club, but can you just talk to me about what happened in that game and how did the fans deal with that loss?
We didn't deal with it well. They didn't deal with it well. I dealt with it well. I kind of predicted when we was up 13-0, it felt like we should have been up more. And we tend to play down to competition. So I kind of felt like we're going to – basically what happened is they let their foot off the gas. They got to the second half. We were 13-0. Think they got it won. Thinking 13-0 is like a huge lead and loud momentum. Saquon Barkley was their big run. It changed momentum. And after that, the Giants rolled it all the way to the comeback victory.
I was going to say, you see that a lot now in football here in Canada and the NFL. A team gets off to a good lead, and then all of a sudden they just stop playing. And you said the word, they took their foot off the gas pedal and they let up. And that sometimes comes back to bite you in the butt at the end of a game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then I was going to say they went into Buffalo and they ran into a buzzsaw there.
Yeah, definitely embarrassing performance, but wasn't expected to win the game anyway. So it was just one of those things that, hey, you should have won week 1. Week 2, you kind of thought because we beat Buffalo last 2 times we played them, but we had them at home. So we knew Buffalo wanted to finally get us. So of course they were going to come hype for their game. We weren't prepared, but apparently they had the players only meeting sometime the week after the game, and at 3 in a row.
I was going to say, and you got a good head coach. Even if you don't like the New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel, I think, has been the best coach to come out of the Patriots system so far, in my opinion, so far.
Yep, and he was never an assistant for the Patriots. So that's the irony about it.
That's true. That's true. The rest of them all were assistant coaches, and I think the next guy that's going to be back in New England soon is Josh McDaniels. I think by the end of this year he'll be back in New England.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And they need offense coordinator.
And I was going to also say too, Parish, sometimes these offensive coordinators, defense coordinators, just don't make good head coaches.
Yep, perfect. Perfect example, Wade Phillips.
Absolutely, he was a great defensive coordinator, just not a very good head coach. Even Greg Williams, the former Titans coach, defensive coordinator, he was a terrible head coach as well. So,
Dan Quinn.
Yes. Hey, I was going to say, are you getting excited for the start of the NBA season and about your Memphis Grizzlies, who have a connection with Canada, coming from Vancouver in 2001? Hard to believe you've been in Memphis. The Grizzlies has been in Memphis now for 21 years.
Yep. And it's definitely one of the more, I mean, we're essentially the most exciting team in the NBA. We were last year. And I mean, looking at the preseason, Ja Morant seemed to improve even more. So it's definitely exciting times here. Most excited we've ever been, even during the core forward era. This is like way more, like times 10.
How is the NBA and basketball doing in Memphis long term?
Great. I think we're a basketball city. So we was always going to gravitate. If you're good, we're going to gravitate to you. The Memphis Tigers kind of are still like bread and butter, number one. Penny Hardaway is the coach now. So, but the Grizzlies are definitely finally stepping up with, we finally got a superstar, because even during the core four era, as great as Zebo, Mark, Tony, and Mike were, none of them are Ja Morant. So that does make a huge difference.
I was kind of sad when they left Vancouver, because I really think I think there are two other cities in Canada that could support NBA, and that would be Montreal and Vancouver. But the Grizzlies had poor ownership, and their attendance wasn't good, and they didn't have a marquee superstar player like the Raptors had in Vince Carter. If you remember when the Raptors started, they had Damon Stoudemire and Vince Carter, and that helped sell the game in Toronto. Vancouver never had that. They had Big Country Reeves and I think Steve Francis, and then it just wasn't at the time it was a good fit. So I was reading up too that Memphis, when they had the team, originally was going to change the name of the team, but the fans wanted to keep the name Grizzlies.
That's interesting. I was like 7 or 8 around that time, so I don't remember. I just remember the movie, but that's interesting. Yeah. I can see that, because I don't think we have Grizzly Bears in Memphis, so I can see that.
But you know what? The name is stuck this long, and it's like the Lakers. The Lakers were originally the Minnesota Lakers, and there's 1,000 lakes over Minnesota. There's none in Los Angeles, but they just kept the name of the team, and it's just gone well.
Yep, so it makes sense.
Okay. Hey, I was gonna say, can you just tell my audience just a little bit about yourself?
Oh yeah, no problem. Like you said, my name Parish Sharkey. Twitter account _P Shark. Live in Memphis. Grew up here. Been here my whole life. Went to the University of Memphis for college. Graduated engineering degree. Grew up wanting to be like a sportscaster. Not Monday Jones. Rest in peace, Stuart Scott. He was one of my favorite analysts. Stephen A. at that time. I don't care for Stephen A. as much nowadays, but growing up, Stephen A. was the person I looked up to as well. Got older. I was good at math. Math was my favorite subject in school, so that's how I got into engineering in school. Not really thinking, how hard. I didn't like to write, put it that way, and I knew writing was going to have to get me to, get into sports journalism and broadcast. And I just didn't like writing. So over the years, a couple years ago, about 2017, after graduating from school, kind of trying to get a job, finally got a job. I decided. Podcasting started to become more known at the time. So that's why I thought about Let's Be Real podcast, doing podcasts with my friends. We came up Let's Be Real because that was my catchphrase. Anytime we talked on the draft or anything, I'd bust out, hey, let's be real. What you talking about? This is that. So that's how Let's Be Real name came about. Started in 2017, stopped, rebooted it back up in 2018. Now it's 5 of us on the podcast, record every Saturday, live every Saturday morning. Also, during that time frame, I think it was COVID year 2020 when we got the opportunity at Grizzly Bear Blues blog to start a podcast, to start 5 podcasts. So all 5 of us started working with the Grizzly Bear Blues. And just this year, what's the I don't know the word I'm looking for. Acquaintance of both of ours, Mike Patton. I met him last year through Twitter, and he kind of been in my ear about writing. So over this year, he kind of motivated me and him among other people, and then I finally started writing and joined Grizzly Bear Blues staff to write about May of this year, around playoff time when doing the Golden State series.
I was going to say, and I've just learned how to start doing digital writing as well. And I do freelance media work as well here in Canada for certain sports leagues. And I didn't go to school for broadcast journalism, but I've had a number of guys on my show who are professors, and they've told me, Chris, normally we would recommend you going to school, but what you're doing with your podcast and your freelance media work, doing live interviews, doing digital stories and stuff like that, so I'm just basically doing it the unconventional way, but I love hearing all my guest stories on here, how they start out.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and it's crazy because I couldn't. I finally came to the conclusion early this year. It wasn't I didn't like writing about sports. I didn't like writing. So trying to go through school, you knew you was going to take other classes.
Yeah, that was
sports. I was like, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, the writing wasn't one of my strong suits in school, and I think if I went back to school now with my life experience and doing what I'm doing now, I think I would do much better. I did okay in school, but I didn't really apply myself as much as I could, and I always had a passion for sports, but they didn't have this technology back in the '90s and early 2000s.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is amazing. Like I can hear you and see you like you're next to me right now, and we're probably about 2,000 miles apart or 1,500 miles apart.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
I'm just outside of Toronto. Yeah, definitely. Now you mentioned a couple of guys. Did you have anybody else who was like a mentor to you when you were starting up?
Starting up sports wise. Oh my God, definitely want to start. Let's be real. My guy Dominic Lawson, host of the Startup Life podcast. He now works for a podcast or company, a medical company, and does a podcast with them as well now. But he was definitely a person who so when I first stopped, let's be real, I basically quit. Me and my friends who were doing it at the time, schedules just wasn't aligning at that time. Really before COVID, virtual wasn't. It was an option, but nobody really used it, right? It wasn't like known. So we was recording in person, and basically our schedule was just being too tight. I started doing a podcast by myself. I didn't like doing it by myself. That was just honest truth. So he was kind of one who was encouraging me to keep going. So he was kind of the reason I even rebooted back off and got some of my other friends who were going to be more consistent. We all stayed on and we just connected, and it's been a fun ride. We're at 187. I think 187 episode will be this weekend. So we're creeping up on that 200 mark.
Awesome. Congratulations. And I was going to say, when I first started this podcast myself, I wasn't very good for 4 months. I couldn't get anybody to come on. And finally, I got the first guest to come on. And then all of a sudden, people started noticing my work. It's like any kind of small business or career. It takes time to build it up. You're not just going to be an automatic success right away.
Yep, definitely. And that's definitely what you have to learn, because that was another part of the reason. Is my schedule's not aligning. I'm doing it by myself, and the numbers ain't looking good. I'm not enjoying this, so that was it. But once I got the group of guys, although our numbers haven't been the greatest, I'm having fun doing it with them.
Well, for me, I think it's good that I learned how to do it on my own as well. But I love, like I said, I love having guests on, and I've had co-hosts on as well. And maybe one day I might maybe look at getting a co-host as well. People think, oh, you're doing a podcast at home at easy, whatever. It's a lot of work. You got to promote the show, you got to produce the show, and guest booking. Guest booking is like a full-time job, right, Parish?
It is. Because even me, I started Let's Tighten Up podcast. I did that for about a year. I started in November of 2020. I just stopped it this year, about July. Only reason, just got started writing and recording 2 other podcasts, because I'm the host of both of the podcasts. I'm the one coming with all the content and all of this. So I couldn't fatigue myself out. So that's why I ended up stopping it.
At one point, I was doing 5 podcast shows a week, working midnight shifts at my other job. So there were some times when I came on here, I was like a zombie, but I managed to get through it. And it sounds to me you have a passion for this like I do myself.
Yep, definitely. That's why I continue. Didn't much continue for here on out.
And one thing too I've learned is just the more you do something, the more reps, the better you improve. And I always like to try to take feedback and advice from people as well to try to improve upon each episode.
Mm-hmm. Same here. I welcome feedback. I want feedback. I wish we had more feedback, so I know exactly what to
Definitely.
do.
Hey, before we wrap this podcast up after in another 25, 30 minutes, I'll let you promote your podcast shows on here as well. So people in Ontario near Toronto, if they wish, they can follow you. I have a friend who covers the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL. Her name is Sarah Said, and she's an aspiring broadcaster as well. She's a huge Tennessee Titans fan, so I thought I would mention her name here tonight. Yeah, she loves the CFL, loves the NFL, and I thought I'd give her a quick shout out here on my podcast show tonight.
Nice, man. Tighten up. Shout out to her.
Definitely. And I'm also kind of spoiled too because I love the CFL. I cover the CFL. I cover the NFL. I cover college football. So I've got both brands of football. And I tell people here in Canada, you can like the NFL and the CFL, and each game has their differences. But I'll tell you this: a lot of guys that come from the States over here, they find out the CFL is not a piece of cake, and it's a different game, but it's great. Basically what I'm saying is I'm a huge football fan.
Yep. That sounds about right. I check out the CFL when I can. It's definitely something when the season is over. Definitely check out in between time. And of course, the other leagues. I think XFL is kicking back off. And what was the league? AAFL was actually pretty good this summer. It was pretty decent league.
I was going to say I haven't really checked out the USFL yet, but I should next season, and the XFL as well. Hey, sports are a lot better than they were 2 years ago with the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. And also, we used to have Becker Arena football existed. We had the arena football team, the Memphis Explorers. I used to watch them play. That was always fun to go to. They actually won the championship one of those years, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so in Tennessee, what's the number one sport? Just got to ask you.
Throughout the state, I would say football throughout the state. In the city of Memphis, basketball.
Football and basketball. Now, I was going to say, I shouldn't say going to say I'm going to eliminate that catchphrase, but do you think Major League Baseball would be feasible in Tennessee? And overall, hockey seems to be doing very well as well with the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, I think so. We have minor league teams too. The Memphis Redbirds, for the St. Louis Cardinals, their minor league system for them. I think Nashville is trying to get the baseball team, a major league team. I think they're like building a stadium or something. So they might be getting a major league team or at least a minor league team sometime soon.
I was going to say the Oakland A's. I would like to see the Oakland A's move there because Oakland right now, they have a horrible stadium. They have no fan support, or even Tampa Bay. How much do you follow baseball? Not a little bit or not a lot?
Not a lot. I used to follow it more until the steroid era was like my thing. And after they kind of took everybody down and runs got less until up to the premiers this year, kind of got back up to their level. But back then, I'm a Chicago White Sox fan as well, so they haven't really just been like just all of that lately either. So that's kind of turned me off a little bit.
Thoughts on Tony La Russa, and should he come back next year?
Nope. I think he is. I think he's not coming back, if I'm mistaken. I don't know. Yeah, he's gone. I think he retired. They're determining, they're choosing between the list of other managers right now, if I'm mistaken.
Who would you like to see to be the next manager of the White Sox?
Now that I don't know. I don't know enough about who all the managers are. I knew a lot about Tony La Russa and him and throughout his career. But
Hall of Fame career, but I think it's time for him to step down. And I was going to say the White Sox were supposed to win the AL Central this year, and it just goes to show you can have all the talent on paper, but you still have to play the game on paper.
Yep, exactly.
And that's what I tell people for every sport, that it's not just the old talent, it's chemistry, guys getting along, and coaching. It's a number of factors. It's not just talent.
Yep, for sure.
Now, overall, what are your thoughts of this 2022 Tennessee Titans team? And do you think they can compete with Kansas City and Buffalo and some of the other teams in the AFC for the playoffs this year?
To be honest, no. When we lost the playoff game to the Cincinnati Bengals, I knew Ryan Tannehill can't get it done in playoff time. So my answer is no to that last question until he proved me wrong that he can do it. So my thoughts about this season, after that loss to the Bengals, it was all about let's get another quarterback, either hopefully by draft or through trade. And it happened to trade, but we were able to get the quarterback I did like the most in the draft, Malik Willis, and pretty much let him sit for a year. I like Trey Lance. I like Pat Mahomes. Let's get through this season. We're probably going to win the division game, make the playoffs, go one and done. My whole hope was that we can win a home playoff game. We lost the last 2 home playoff games. So if we get in the playoffs, at least win a home game. But let's move forward with Malik Willis next year and see, can he get us over the top?
How's Derrick Henry look so far with the Titans?
He's still looking good. I know people overreacted his mini slow start this year. He starts off slow every season, and he gets better every season in his career. He's always started off slow. He gets better with time, more carries, more reps. Plus, he came off the injury. He didn't have a good playoff game last year either, but he just came off the injury. He was out 10 weeks, and so you got to remember he was still working his way back even to start this season. So I was never really truly worried about him, but he's been looking good. He's actually catching the ball now at the backfield, so he's adding to his arsenal in the running and passing game. So not worried about him at all. He gets better as the season goes along. So as it get cold outside, he's going to be even better because defenders really ain't going to want to tackle him at that point.
How hard was it to see A.J. Brown be traded to the Eagles and Julio Jones? I guess I don't know if they released him or traded him to Tampa Bay, but how much of a loss was that for the Titans with both of those guys?
Not so. When we first traded AJ, I even had the AJ Brown jersey. I was crushed that night of, and I was on live with one of my other guys, Power Hour. Check him out. We was live doing that draft, and they traded him. It was like, what? After that, after we made the trades to get Malik Willis and even we got Traylon Burks, that helped me feel better knowing we got a quarterback of the future. And so we had to sacrifice AJ Brown to get a potential star quarterback. Then so be it. My thing about AJ Brown and Julio Jones did get cut. So last season they both were hurt a lot. I think they missed. AJ Brown missed he missed 4 games, but he had 2 other games where he left early. Julio Jones missed 7 games. So we really never saw them 2 fully healthy. And Julio Jones was every week, his hamstring every week. And I think same thing going on with Tampa Bay right now. His knee is just every week is something. So losing them, it didn't feel like it hurt as much because the production, I think they combined for like 1,200 yards last year and like 5 touchdowns. Like it didn't really, their names didn't match their production. So I didn't really feel like it hurt us too much because we didn't really see them together anyway.
I was going to say Jones right now with Tampa Bay. I believe he's hurt again. A.J. Brown so far has stayed healthy with the Philadelphia Eagles. And if he can stay healthy, that's definitely going to help with Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Quaz Watkins, and the development of Jalen Hurts. I know you're not an Eagles fan, but what are your thoughts on Jalen Hurts? Are you sold on him as a possible franchise elite quarterback, or is the jury still out in your opinion?
I've always been sold on Jalen. Well, I ain't gonna say always. When he was at Alabama, I didn't believe he was gonna be a quarterback. But he didn't improve after he got benched for Tua. Then he went to Oklahoma and got better. So I've always been a proponent of give him a chance, get a weapon like AJ Brown, and see what he can do. So I believe he's a franchise quarterback for y'all. I'm rooting for him. I'm actually so unlike other Titans fans who like rooting against the Eagles and all that stuff. Hey, I let bygones be bygones. When AJ Brown, man, good luck to him. I know he still always bring up the Titans or whatever, but he's on my fantasy team, so I want him to produce. Like I told Titans fans, this ain't personal, this business. So love to see. I definitely want to see Jalen Hurts succeed though. I think him and AJ Brown like best friends. So I mean, that was kind of a match made in heaven, along with Devontae Smith, who he played with at Alabama. So it just kind of all go hand in hand anyway.
Hurts to me, I saw Steve McNair in his prime, and to me, Hurts reminds me of the late great Steve McNair, just with his mobility, his arm, and he just likes proving people wrong too. And you can't just always go and judge a quarterback. To me, I don't know how you feel about this, Parish, but to me, for a young quarterback in the NFL, it usually takes 3 years to really fully develop to see if you're going to make it or not as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
I totally agree. I think everybody gets you see the immediate success of like Justin Herbert, right? And see how he just came out his rookie year and just flat out, amazing. But you gotta get quarterbacks time. You gotta get them weapons. I mean, Jalen Hurts last year, our receiver. So I know I got one of my podcast mates, Savage. He's an Eagles fan. And he couldn't stand Jalen Rager. Y'all drafted him over Jordan Jefferson. So
thanks for reminding me. Thanks for reminding me.
Saying, like, it's just like things like that. Like you can't how you judge Jalen Hurts when Jalen Rager out here dropping passes, right? Like get him an AJ Brown before you judge him. Give Tua a Tyreek Hill before you judge him, right? Like let them develop. Like everybody is not flashy right out the bat. Like even with Trevor Lawrence right now, give him time. Like Jacksonville shouldn't just give up on him right now. Zach Wilson, like get these quarterbacks time. I know everybody's just in this microwave society the way you got to get immediate satisfaction. And it's not always the case. Each player develops differently, and like you got to give them some time and give them actual weapons and protection on the offensive line in order to truly see what they made of.
And how I would build a football team is it starts with the O-line and D-lines, and then you add the pieces from the O-line and the D-line. Now, I was going to say the Eagles take on Dallas on Sunday. The Eagles are banged up right now on their offensive line right now, and that worries me because as much as I hate the Dallas Cowboys, because I'm an Eagles fan, I hate everybody. Dallas has a really good defense, and there's a gentleman named Micah Parsons who I'm very concerned about on Sunday night against the Eagles with Hurts. But thankfully, Hurts has mobility that should be able to help him escape some of these pressure situations, because I think the Dallas is going to come out after Hurts and try to beat him.
Yeah, and that's definitely it's gonna be an interesting game. I do like Michael Parsons, man. That Memphis Tigers, we played the Cotton Bowl against Penn State, and we all went to the game in Dallas. And Michael Parsons, he dominated. He dominated us. And I knew from that point, I knew seeing him in that game, I was like, oh, he gonna be starting in the NFL. So nothing I'm seeing from him is shocking. And also another thing I pay attention with the Eagles, going back to the Eagles, Kenny Gainwell, he from Memphis. So we pay a lot of attention to the Eagles down here.
Hey, like I said, I really appreciate you guys trading AJ Brown, because I think if AJ can stay healthy, he will definitely make the Eagles more add speed and another threat, because teams last year were double teaming Devontae Smith and now Smith has some of the pressure taken off of him. So I think they call themselves Batman and Robin duo now.
Yeah, that's about right. AJ was great for us. I think last year he had an injury with it, but we saw the San Francisco game. He had 150 yards when him and Deebo Samuel was going head up. The playoff game, he had 140 some yards. Hey, he's definitely a great one. Like I said, I was crushed the night of course, but you got to move on. So after we got Malik Willis, I kind of felt a little better, like knowing, okay, we do got a quarterback, so it's time to move forward.
Are you going to be able to watch some of the Kansas City Buffalo game Sunday? And quick thoughts about the Chiefs Buffalo Bills rematch at Arrowhead?
Yeah, definitely got to watch that. I wish they would finally play in Buffalo for once, but I think Buffalo needs it, because if Buffalo gonna want to finally beat them, they gotta get home. They got to get home field advantage in the playoffs. That's what it feels like. So in order for them to finally get past them, I know they beat them in Kansas City in the regular season last year, but they had the little slump, so they end up getting like third or fourth seed. So had to go back to Kansas City again. They got to make sure they can get home field advantage and get Kansas City at home this year if they want to finally get over the hump. And sometimes it's what it takes. Peyton Manning finally beat Tom Brady until he played in Indianapolis. Like he lost to Tom Brady in New England year after year. When they had to go to Indianapolis, he finally beat them. So that's sometimes what it takes, is finally getting them at home in the playoffs.
I think this game's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be in the 80 points range. I just think Buffalo's got some injuries in their secondary, and Tre'Davious White is still not going to play. And I just think Mahomes and Kelsey are still going to be able to move the ball and get points on Buffalo. I just think whoever has the ball last in this game is going to probably win this game. And Patrick Mahomes, I don't know how you feel about him, but to me, he reminds me of Steph Curry for the Golden State Warriors. And Josh Allen reminds me of a physical type player like LeBron James.
I could definitely see that. I like the comparison. But Yeah, Pat Mahomes, they feel like he's still the best quarterback, and people are trying to put Josh Allen over him. It's like they're trying to find reasons to take down Mahomes because he's been winning for so much. So it's like kind of you just always try to find like, okay, who's the next great thing, and they try to ride with it. But I mean, Josh Allen is up there. He's tick for tack, almost there with Mahomes. Last year, he had the number one defense, and they had 13 seconds, and they couldn't stop Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. So. Crushing blow, but they got to figure out some way, somehow this year.
They've also had wide right. They've had the Music City Miracle. They had the no-go on hockey with the Sabres, and now the 13 seconds. So to me, Buffalo is a hard luck city for sports. And I don't know how you can dislike Allen or Mahomes. They're both good guys off the field, as well as probably future Hall of Famers on the field as well.
Yep, definitely. They're definitely. Yeah, they're the new Peyton. They're the new Manny and Brady, pretty much of this era. They're about the same conference. It's about to be them two for a while. So everybody else just sneak in where you can fit in, like Cincinnati did last year.
Are there any other teams right now, Parish, that are kind of surprising you in the AFC and the NFC?
Surprising me in the wrong direction. The Colts, they look absolutely terrible. Although they still have a 500 record and they're like right there, only because the Broncos were even worse. But yeah, they've been surprised at just how bad they've looked. The Broncos, of course, as well. But I didn't expect the Broncos or the Raiders to really like compete for the division title. Surprising team on the winning side. The Jets are surprising to a certain extent because I expect them to be better, but I expect them to be better enough to have a winning record right now with Zach Wilson missing the first 3 games. Joe Flacco still in the win in Cleveland. I didn't see that coming. So the Jets definitely improving. It's a little bit of surprise. Also, the Texans, although they're 1-3-1, they have been in all their games. Like they haven't like just lost, like got blown out. They've been in every single one of the games. So that's a shout out to Lovie Smith for getting them to like play hard and be in every single game and finally still a win in Jacksonville. So the Texans just even being competitive has been shocking to me as well.
First coach fired in the NFL this year. Who do you think?
Well, we already. You mean second coach? Matt Rule is already fired.
Oh yeah, Matt Rule. Yeah, you're right. My gut feeling is Josh McDaniels, but I've been hearing talk about Mike Tomlin. But how do you fire a guy who's had no losing seasons in 15 years in Pittsburgh and all the success they've had?
Yeah, I don't think any other coach is gonna get fired in season. And Mike Tomlin, if he goes, it won't be a firing. It will be like a mutual parting ways, kind of like a firing, but they won't promote it as a fire. They're gonna talk to him. It'll be a mutual parting ways. Actually, 2 of my co-hosts with LBR and Starting Five, they are Steelers fans, and one of them have been on like the not necessarily fire Tomlin thing, but over the last like 3 or 4 years, he's been kind of like been irritable of Mike Tomlin only because of it's been. I mean, they ain't won Super Bowl since like 2007, 2008 or whatever. So he just kind of like, all right, it's time for something new. You've been there a while. You kind of just getting the playoffs, losing one game, and it's like kind of like just a recurring theme. So he been kind of out on Mike Tomlin in a way, but I don't see him necessarily getting fired. It'll be like a mutual parting ways. Another coach, Nathaniel Hackett for the Broncos. I think he's like I said, I don't think anybody gets fired during the season, but first year head coaches to get fired, Nathaniel Hackett and Josh McDaniels are definitely right up the list.
What about Frank Wright in Indy? You think he's on the hot seat?
They are. They was talking about him and GM Chris Ballard. They both are. And I think Frank Reich is a good coach, but Andrew Luck retiring after blue, kind of their free season, it just threw everything off. They had a QB carousel since then, so it's only so much a coach can do when you're changing. The GM is drafting for a new quarterback every single year, and the quarterback got to relearn the system, relearn the team. So it's kind of tough. Then then the quarterbacks they're getting like an old Matt Ryan. Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz. As Philadelphia. Since that injury, because he was MVP candidate before he had the ACL tear. But Phillip Rivers was good for him that 1 year, but you could tell he was at the end of his career as well. So it's kind of tough, but that he is on the hot seat. I think winning last week probably saved, bought him another week or so. But as long as they're in the thick of the division, he'll probably make it throughout the season.
What are your thoughts on Russell Wilson? Do you think he's coming to the end of his career, or do you think he will start playing better once he gets more comfortable with that system?
I think he'll start playing better. Plus, he got I think the little shoulder injury and everything. But everybody, and once again, microwave society. 5 weeks, he got traded to a new team, learning a new system. Got a coach that seems over his head. So it's kind of, I've seen plenty of quarterbacks start slow, end fast. I've seen plenty of quarterbacks. Russell Wilson start fast and end slow. So I don't think he's washed. I think he still has some trail left in his tires. He just slow start, new team. He's been with Seattle, 9-10 years. It's not that far-fetched that that's happening.
I know Seattle. I know Geno Smith has done a good job with the Seahawks so far this year, but he's not the long-term solution as a franchise quarterback either. And if you don't have a franchise quarterback in the National Football League or even the CFL, you're not going to win a lot of football games because it really starts with the quarterback.
Yep, definitely.
Next question I wanted to ask you, what are your overall thoughts on Mike Vrabel and the Titans coaching staff and their general manager and ownership? And what are your quick thoughts on the upcoming game against the Colts on October 23rd? And what's the injury report or status like for the Titans right now?
Injury report looking like last year. I think we've already used like 60 players this season.
Wow.
We broke the NFL record last year for like most players using the season. So injury front, I think we're getting most of our defensive starters that I hurt back after the bye week. So that definitely helps. But I think about Vrabel, very good coach, very stubborn though. And I think he's stubborn to a fault. Like he is loyal. I put it that way because Todd Downing, the offense coordinator, in my opinion, should have been fired after last season. But he stuck with him. He started this season just as bad. He's had like last 3 games, 3-game winning streak. We've been great in the first half, nothing in the second half. So it's just things like that. I don't know if that's necessarily the play calling anymore, or is it just Mike Vrabel and his philosophy? Just always want to grind out victories like a lot of Patriots, right? It just feels like we're definitely like mimicking New England's ways because even our GM John Robinson, he was a scout for the Patriots. Then J-Rob, and Mike Vrabel played for the Patriots. So it's kind of like we're doing the Patriots way thing, especially with the next man up mentality, how we still win despite 60 different players playing. But at some point in time, Ryan Tannehill ain't Tom Brady. So, what I'm saying, that's going to run out at some point. So it's just the way it is. But Vrabel, I think he's good. You can expect to always be in every single game with him. And coming up against the Colts coming up, unless the Colts start improving out the blue, we should sweep them again. But it's still the Colts. I won't ever forget Andrew Luck going 11-0 against us. So every time we play the Colts, I'm never putting the pen to a victory against them. So it's a division battle, always tough battle. If the Colts do win this weekend against Jacksonville, that game would be for first place in the division. And despite how bad the Colts have looked, that's kind of crazy to think about. Like they have a shot. They have a winning record if they win Sunday. So they're still not out of it by any means.
Definitely, I was going to say, and I think the strengths of that Colts team is their defense, obviously, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel, but to me, it's their defense.
Yep, that's definitely their strength. And think about the Colts. National media love them this offseason. Every offseason, every last couple of years, they picked them to win the division, and we still win it. And it's kind of just one of the things where everybody, and our question about us was our offensive line and us trading AJ to our receivers. The Colts had the same exact questions. Everybody said the offensive line was good. I'm like, outside of Quentin Nelson, who named me another lineman, and that's been their problem this season is the offensive line. So I'm like, national media kind of ignored their deficiencies and kind of hopped on ours because they don't. I think it was a Ryan Tannehill thing, personally, but the Colts, like I said, they're still in it. But we both have the same weaknesses and the same strengths. We're kind of like a mirror image of each other.
Before I get to the Memphis Grizzlies, are you okay for another 5-6 minutes? Couple more questions?
Definitely.
Okay, I just yes or no, should the NFL consider going to a 60-man roster instead of 53, just with the amount of injuries across the league nowadays?
Yep, definitely. They should consider it, but I do think that they're fine with they did extend the practice squad roster to 16 players. And pretty much that's almost the equivalent of going to a 60-man roster. So I think they helped out a lot. So 60 wouldn't be bad, but I still don't think. I'm thinking on game day, all 60 players. Are you gonna have enough injuries where you have to play 60, potentially play 60 players? I'm not sure, but that wouldn't be a bad thing for them to do. But them upgrading the practice squad definitely has helped.
Okay. Now I just get asked, since I live near Toronto, I'm not a Raptors fan. Been a Detroit Pistons fan since 1981. Isaiah Thomas and the Bad Boys. I wanted to just tell all my Canadian audience here a little bit about the 2022-23 Memphis Grizzlies, and are they a contender out of the Western Conference this year? You feel?
Yep, I would say they are. Now there are about 8 contenders in the Western Conference. The Western Conference is a deep conference. You got the Clippers coming back fully healthy. You got Denver Nuggets coming back fully healthy. The Lakers is still LeBron and Anthony Davis. If they are healthy, they are in it. If they are not healthy, which they haven't been, they're not. It really just comes down to health with those two. So it's going to be a tough conference, but I do think the Grizzlies are right in the thick of it. I think the losses this offseason, lost some of my role players, the Anthony Melton and Kyle Anderson, but in the playoffs, the Anthony Melton was nowhere to be found. And Kyle Anderson just never really truly fit the system. So I think just, Ja Morant and Desmond Bane taking the next step. Once we get Jaren Jackson back, once he's back from his foot injury, if he takes the next step, then we got our big 3. So just really just keep riding with them and see where they can take us.
I don't know if it was you or somebody else. Are there a couple of Canadians on the Grizzlies team?
Yep, Brandon Clark and Dylan Brooks.
Wow. And you know what? Canadian basketball here has really taken off, especially the last 25 years with the Raptors, especially in the high school area around here near Toronto as well. So
yeah. And y'all have a lot of influx of players, Tristan Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, list goes on. Like a lot of players coming to the league. I think Steve Nash was like the very first one back in the 90s who like started the whole trend.
Yeah, he wasn't the first one, but he's probably the greatest player to come out of Canada. Mm-hmm. Victoria, British Columbia, by the way. So
nice.
And this one I wanted to ask you as well. What are your thoughts on the Grizzlies ownership right now and their current GM and coaching staff and overall the franchise? How does the franchise look overall?
We're in great shape. Similar to the Titans, it's like they're over the last couple of years, we was in a big flux. Our former GM Chris Wallace was trash. I mean, all his draft picks from like 9 years straight, none of them panned out. So you finally get owner. You got finally get an owner that's willing to pay. And then you got a GM who's pretty much not missing on his draft picks. Get Brandon Clark, get Ja Morant, you get Zaire Williams. I think Jaren Jackson was drafted before him, but Desmond Bane, end of the first round, and now he's one of your star players. So I think we're definitely in good shape. The signings, they don't really, and Memphis being a small market, we don't really attract free agents. So they're doing this in-house developing type of thing. I don't think they've signed a free agent outside the team in 3 years, and that was Tyus Jones, who we just re-signed this offseason. Everything's been through trades and drafts. So I think they're doing a marvelous job. Coaching staff, Taylor Jenkins is getting better. He was like 34 when he first was hired. So just like the team, he's young too. He's gotten better every single year. I'd like to see him make some better adjustments in the playoffs. But just like the team, be patient. He's young as well. He has to learn as well. So they're all in good shape.
What's the population in Memphis, Tennessee?
If I'm not mistaken, I don't know what 63. I wouldn't know. I gotta Google this.
I'll look.
We used to be I know we used to be the largest in the state of Tennessee, but I think Nashville has overtook us now because of all the construction and everything that they're building in Nashville.
Okay, how far is Nashville from Memphis, anyways?
3-hour drive.
3 hours. That's not bad. So that's okay. That's basically the equivalent of where I live in Ontario to Detroit. So it's not that far. Okay. Not that bad of a drive. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to wrap this up. I just got a couple more quick questions I wanted to ask you. What are some of the most memorable stories and interviews you've done so far in your career with your podcast show and being a staff writer?
Remember interviews. Right off the top of my head, one of my co-hosts now, Sheedy, he was a guest first, And he was just so good as a guest that it was like, hey, you want to, well, he wanted to come on the show first. He had to come on. Well, I already thought about bringing him on the show. So bring him on. He's been great because the rest of us are from Memphis. He's not from Memphis. He's from Ohio. So it kind of brought like a different outsider influence on us. Other guests, we've had quite a bit. This year on the Starting Five podcast, one of the, we consider him like a Memphis legend, Jason Smith. Definitely like in the city, really big sports writer. He used to cover the Tigers. Now has a radio show every day that's like one of the best shows in Memphis. So he was a great get as an interview. Let me see other stories or interviews. I know each interview we have, we do a Q&A with the interviewer and do kind of deep dive and why, kind of like what you did with me. We start asking why they start podcasting and things like that. So those are two that come right off the top of my head for each podcast. And being a staff writer, I just wrote my first piece on Zaire Williams and just writing about him and just seeing his growth and kind of like watching him this summer league, kind of coming back to last year when we drafted him. None of us thought that was a good pick. Nobody in Memphis when we traded up to get him. We thought we could have got him at 17, and we traded Jonas Valanciunas to pick him at 10. And just seeing what he did throughout his rookie year and how he gradually developed to even hitting big shots in the playoff game against Golden State game 2 of this series. He hit like 3 threes in the fourth quarter. Just seeing his progression and being able to write about him was definitely pretty good for me.
Overall, how do you feel your writing has improved? Like how many stories have you done so far?
I mean, I've done features. I've done 3. I did a player review on Xavier Tillman last year. Did a player preview on Zaire Williams and Xavier Tillman for this season. But we do like game recaps. We do a game preview, a recap, and a quick recap like right after the game and a report card for the next day. I've done a lot of them because I've doing summer league. I pretty much did like 4 different recaps in like the same week. So I definitely have gotten better, especially it's just little things like when you type in, it's just like, okay, look at this stat. Okay, let me look up this stat. I definitely got better at that because one of the main reasons I didn't care for writing was especially coming up analytics. I'm not a big analytics person. You're not going to catch me talking about, hey, this team has a 50% chance of winning this game because of this is this. It's like, analytics. We saw Monday Night Football. Analytics kind of, I understand it, but it kind of ruins stuff at the same time. But I definitely could see the progression. I got a whole lot more comfortable writing since I've started for sure.
And I just got 2 questions left to ask you. Can you just tell my audience here in Ontario near Toronto what it's like in the state of Tennessee, and what are some restaurants and some places for sightseeing in the state of Tennessee?
So first, I'm gonna start off by trolling the rest of the state. So Memphis, we're kind of like, I don't know, us and the rest of the state don't vibe like that. It's kind of like, so we don't include ourselves as part of the state of Tennessee. But overall, I love visiting Nashville. It's fun. Never had a problem there. Their hot chicken is really good. Like Prince's chicken. A couple other spots that are pretty good there. But in Memphis, we're barbecue. If you're in any barbecue restaurants, you should go to Central Barbecue, Germantown Commissary. I can keep going, naming different barbecue spots. And our wings, chicken wings, honestly, we probably got better wings than barbecue. To be telling the truth. So Memphis, food capital, is plenty to eat here. Now it's not necessarily like New Orleans with all the seafood down there, but yeah, definitely come here for the food. Yep. Sightseeing wise, I would say we got mountains over there at Gatlinburg, over there near Knoxville side on the east side of the state, where the University of Tennessee is at. And so Gatlinburg is definitely good sightseeing with the mountains over there. Nashville, like I said, you never been to Nissan Stadium and going to see the stadium. It's not just like they're about to actually build a new stadium. The stadium ain't the greatest, but it's still a stadium. It's still pretty nice to go see. Feds Forum, like I said, not the biggest arena, not the greatest arena, but I mean, we make it work. It's it's great for our city, for Memphis, and I'm trying to think just other spots to go to sightseeing wise if you ever come.
Chicken wings there is the chicken wings there as good as in Buffalo?
So I've never been to Buffalo. So
Buffalo.
and that's the
Oh,
thing.
okay.
And that's the thing about me. I'm like, a lot of people in Kansas City, North Carolina, Texas say they have the best barbecue. I'm the type of person, I got to visit the places before I can judge it, right? I'm not going to say Memphis has the best barbecue because I've never been to the other places. I ain't going to say Memphis has the best wings because I've never been to Buffalo, right? But I would say we have pretty good barbecue, pretty good wings, and we should be up there at the top. But I haven't been to those places to really, truly, or I haven't had, like I've been to Texas, but I haven't had that barbecue when I've been there type of thing to really, truly judge those things. But I've heard about Buffalo's wings. When Titans had the game, some media members, I followed the Titans media members. They posted about it, so I definitely do need to visit Buffalo.
And I definitely need to visit Tennessee. I've been to 13 states, but I've never been to Tennessee. So when I do finally make that visit, I will let you know. And I would love to see a Titans game at Nissan Stadium, and even catch an NBA game at FedEx Forum as well. How far is the FedEx Forum from Nissan Stadium?
Yeah, so the cities are 3 hours apart. Probably about the same, 3 hours, 3.5. Cause really, I can make the drive in 2.5 hours. So anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5, depending on traffic, because Nashville do have a lot of traffic once you get there. So, but for stadium to stadium, probably about 3, maybe a little over 3 hours.
Not too bad. Where can my audience find you on social media? And just briefly tell us about your podcast shows and where they're available online, and what days do you normally film your podcasts?
Yep, most definitely. Follow me on Twitter. That's where I'm doing the most of the talking, all the sports promotion and everything. So follow me on Twitter at the DAONE_P Shark, as you can see on the bottom of the screen. Listen to us, and in my bio, I have a link tree, so that's how you can follow everything, me writing all those different things. But listen to us, LBR. We go live every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time on YouTube. But then it's released audio platform to 11 different podcast platforms right now, including Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, iHeart, and plenty of other ones, as well as Starting 5 Podcast. It's under the Grizzly Bear Blues. So you got to find Grizzly Bear Blues Podcast Network to find us for the Starting 5 Podcast. And we'll release that. There'll be Mondays or Tuesdays this year, depending on the Grizzlies schedule. So if they have like a back-to-back Sunday, Monday, we record Sunday night, release Monday type of thing. Yeah, I'll be scheduled dependent as we record either Sunday or Monday. So either Mondays or Tuesdays, check us out on the Grizzly Bear Blues Podcast Network. And that's on any podcast platform, same as Spotify. Spotify, Google, Stitcher, not sure if we're on. Yeah, we are on iHeart. Yes, we are. So same thing. Any podcast platform you get your podcast on.
And my podcast shows on 11 platforms, live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And then I have 8 audio platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Google, and that. So if you give me about 15, 20 minutes after we wrap this up, I will send you a link to my audio version of my podcast as well. And I would say, Parish, thank you so much for coming on season 4, episode 41 of Live with CDP podcast tonight. And I would really like to have you back on again as a guest, and maybe just talk strictly the Memphis Grizzlies, and maybe a little bit more towards the NFL playoffs about the Titans as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for the invite again, man. This was fun. Definitely.
No problem, and I really appreciate it. And I'll definitely hit you up as soon as one day I can make it to Tennessee and come check out the Titans game at Nissan Stadium.
Definitely, just let me know, especially if they play the Eagles. I know they'll be like 4
Definitely,
years
fly Eagles, fly. Hey, anyways, enjoy the game tonight between the Bears and Commanders. Hopefully, it's going to be better than it was, and enjoy the bye week as well. And good luck to your Memphis Grizzlies. And Parish will definitely keep in touch with you on social media.
All right, definitely. And the Grizzlies are playing the Pistons tonight, ironically, so in preseason.
What are the odds of that? Eh? Go Pistons. So, okay. Well, good luck to your Grizzlies, not just against my Pistons, though.
All right, man.
Okay, you too. Have a good night and enjoy your bye week and some NFL football.
All right, definitely, man. You do the same.
You too. Thanks, Parish. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my podcast show tonight. Season 4, episode 41 was Parish Sharkey. And he came on tonight to talk about his podcast shows and talk a little bit about the Tennessee Titans and the NBA's Memphis Grizzlies as well. You guys can check out his website at Linktree / Let's Be Real Media. And I have his Twitter page on here as well. You guys can check Parish's Twitter page out on at @P Shark. That's at @P Shark as well. And Parish is a podcast host, producer like myself of Let's Be Real Media, and a staff writer for Grizzly Bear Blues and the Starting Five podcast for the Memphis Grizzlies as well. And like I do with all my show, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Live with CDP Sports Talk is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for their newest selections of new and pre-owned vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210. Check out Nathan Laud. He's one of their fine salespeople, one of the fine salespeople at Barry Cullen, and tell him that Chris Palme, CDP, sent you as well. So again, thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet for sponsoring Live with CDP podcast as well. And also, guys, just like I do with all my podcast shows, Live with CDP podcast, the audio version is going to be downloaded to Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, and LinkedIn as well. And I also would like some feedback too, guys. Viewer feedback. If anybody has any comments, and positive comments or negative comments about my podcast shows, please let me know, because I'm still a work in progress and I am working hard on trying to get into radio one day. And any feedback would be greatly appreciated as well. Also, guys, StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP podcast. And you guys can check me out on TikTok. I do a lot of video content there at Live with CDP. That's at Live with CDP on TikTok as well. And I'm just going to let you guys know I have another podcast show coming up. Just before I do that, the Argo Bounce live audio show is on Twitter Spaces every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern with my co-host Nick Small, as we break down the CFL's Toronto Argonauts previous game and preview their upcoming opponents as well. So please check out the Argo Bounce live audio show with myself and my co-host Nick Small every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern on Twitter Spaces. Or check me out at Chris D. Palme on Twitter as we talk about the CFL and the Argonauts as well. And let's see, guys. My next podcast show, guys, is going to be this Tuesday, October 18th. That's Tuesday, October 18th at 9 o'clock Eastern. My guest is going to be Mike Patton. He's a freelance media member, and he also does some work for the Tennessee Tribune, and he's a freelance journalist, and he's also the host and producer of the AFC South podcast. So Mike's going to come on and talk about his career as a freelance journalist, doing some work for the Tennessee Tribune, and his podcast show of the AFC South, talking about the teams in the AFC South, which are the Colts, Titans, Houston, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. That'll be season 4 still. Episode 42 is Mike Patton. I'm really looking forward to that as well. So that's about it, guys. Actually, you know what? I'm going to have to talk to my co-host, Nick, and maybe have to move the Argo Bounce live audio show up to 8 o'clock, because I completely forgot about that. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys can check out my next podcast this Tuesday night with Mike Patton, and we're going to talk a little more NFL and the AFC South with him as well. And stay tuned. I'm going to talk to Nick Small, and we'll see if we can do the Argo Bounce live audio show a little bit earlier this Tuesday night as well. So I hope everyone has a great night. Enjoy the NHL games. I know the Leafs are playing the Capitals, and also enjoy the Major League Baseball playoffs, which resume again tomorrow as well. So again, thank you to Parish Sharkey for coming on. And I hope everybody enjoyed season 4, episode 41 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in the Guelph Auto Mall. Good night, everybody. And we'll talk to you Tuesday night at 9 o'clock with Mike Patton. And we'll talk more NFL. All right. Enjoy your night, enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thank you again for watching Live with CDP Podcast, Sports Talk on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and later on my audio platforms such as Apple, Google, Spotify, Anchor FM, LinkedIn, Radio Public, etc. Good night, everybody, and go Birds, fly Eagles fly, and I have to say this as well, Dallas sucks. Eagles will win that game 24-17 over Dallas on Sunday Night Football at Lincoln Financial Field. Looking forward to that game. All right, guys. Good night.